Get your coffee and join me today for GHC Coffee Break. Angie Wheelis, from the Director of Georgia Highlands Student Support Services, will be joining me. Go get your coffee.
My college offers classes that meet my educational and career goals.
With opportunities outside of the classroom.
Where the faculty know me by name.
My college can prepare me for my career.
I can earn an associate's degree and transfer credits to a bachelor's.
My college is a state college within the university system of Georgia.
My college offers courses that fit my schedule.
It's where excellence begins.
We are.
We are.
We are.
We are GHC, Georgia Highlands College.
Welcome to GHC Coffee Break. I'm very excited about my guest today, Angie Wheelis, who is the Director of Student Support Services at Georgia Highlands College, and of course my co-host again, Megan. I've really enjoyed her being on the show with me this semester. Angie, I appreciate you being here. I know one of the things I was talking to you about is mental health in adolescence. There's you're seeing a lot more people, I think, having the actual diagnoses, is that right? Diagnosis of mental health issues, and younger, it seems like a younger age. And one of the things that we were talking about, you know, things that when I was growing up, ADHD even, we didn't even know that word existed. Attention deficit disorder and hyperactivity is ADHD, I think, is that right?
It is.
Disorders. But we was just unruly kids, and you know, people didn't get those labels. Right. And of course, labels are one of those things that concern me a little bit, because when we label people, then they're treated like their label. Wow. So I just kind of want to chat and get your take on that.
Well, good. It is great to be here with you, Susan. Coming into your living room is always a lot of fun. So thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining us.
It's good to have you too here, Megan. Yeah. Well, mental health is a big issue. It is. It's something I do every day. I work with students in the college setting who have mental illness or who are dealing with any mental health issue. Whether it's a diagnostic issue or it's just stress in general, walking through stress, being a college student dealing with life situations and issues. But you're right, yeah, just being able to focus in on the mental health issues of our young people is an important thing. Diagnosis that come about, issues that students walk in to our colleges with, who they've been dealing with for quite some time in high school, middle school, even elementary school. Coming in too, so it's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, it's something that I think we've talked about in our interviewing and helping skills class, that you know, it's really hard to understand some of the things that kids are going through today that we didn't go through when we were growing up. And I think it's really important that we address it in a very you know, my style is more, I'm eclectic, but I'm Rogerian, person-centered. So what's going on, and I've actually, you and I have talked together, and we have a very similar style, which is good. I think it helps the students or the people that come in to see us. So talk about some of the things that we can do as a community to help adolescents and children, and even adults, cope with the stressors that are going on today, because they're a lot different than they were.
There are, and you know, if you kind of step back and take a look at what's going on in the United States right now with rallies or protests or just divisive type issues, it stirs up within young people. And there's an element too that is happening now that didn't happen when we were youngers, way back in the day, is the element of social media or immediate information that's at their hand 24/7, following thoughts of other people that are posted, not necessarily factual information, but people's ideas or thoughts or opinions that are constant. So that's an element that's playing with our young people now that wasn't an element at when we were growing up as well. So there's that stirring, always something, the stirring of anxiety or something to pay attention to or watch out for. So there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of stress. that even leads to depression within our young people that may not have been there before. And I'm so curious to see the studies of the young people that will be coming about when they enter their 20s or so, and to see what the studies are increase in mental health issues that maybe it wasn't there before. So.
Megan, I mean, you're younger than us, and I mean, yes, my phone is more attached to me than it was, say, 15, 10 years ago, 5 years ago even. Yeah. But as a young person, how do you feel about what we just said?
It's definitely more difficult with social media. It's stressful, especially since everyone is supposed to have their phone on them all the time. And especially if you're having like friendship issues or relationship issues also, like that's constantly on social media for everyone to see, and you're having to deal with that on top of everything else. So
my husband, he made a very astute comment, I thought, one day. We were talking about this in the phones. He said, I don't understand it. These girls are putting on Facebook or whatever, he couldn't even name all the things, he said, or tweeting or twitting or whatever, about things that they used to hide in their journals and lock away are now being put out for everybody to see, you know. And he said, that's ridiculous. You know, he said, y'all used to lock it up. Now it's just out there for everybody. Yeah. Even relationships, and suddenly, you know, something that's between you and I becomes between you and I and whoever we've shared something on social media with.
Exactly.
Right. And you think about the elements of bullying, or the elements of something that you want secretive, you thought was shared with a friend, a trusted friend, now is everywhere. It's blasted. People are telling each other, well, why don't you just go ahead and kill yourself? Why don't you just disappear? I mean, ugly, harsh things. And it's to a tender-hearted young person in middle school or early high school, even in high school, to hear things like that, it's pretty extreme. And so we've seen in the community, in the local community here, where situations where students, young people will take their lives, literally take their lives because the bullying was so intense. On the outside, you don't see it because it's all in the inner world of things that are going on, tweeting and Instagram, and they posted that about me, and now the person's shamed to go to school because they've been blasted all over, and it was just an embarrassing thing. And so we're seeing a lot of nuances in mental health concerning social media, the world, the private world. I've had students come in who were so attached to their phone that even in the counseling session, it was constantly going off, and they'd look and they'd continue talking, and then they'd look. And so they literally have about 4 or 5, maybe 7 or 8 conversations going on at the same time. So it appears as if they're completely scattered, which kind of they are, because they're having that many conversations going and trying to keep them all together while they're trying to talk with a counselor or be in a classroom or study for their classes or do the things that they need to do. So it's a different world now.
It is, and even in the classroom, I try to say, don't, in my class, you don't need to have your phones out. I don't restrict the phone in the sense of, I know I have a lot of non-traditional students who have kids, and if something happens, and I myself like the idea. I leave mine in my office unless I know there's something that I need to be concerned about. But so I don't say no phones, because I do understand if a child gets sick and the school calls you, you've got to go. But at the same time, it's finding that balance where are they just picking up the phone, looking their friend. But I'm also seeing this used as a tool of, I'm going to say cyber stalking, even if it's not stalking into the serious sense of stalking, but it's literally like if someone doesn't answer a text message within an X amount of time, suddenly, why are you mad at me? Why aren't you answering my text? Well, I was in class. But and so it's it's almost like
an extreme. It's an extreme piece that comes in. I'd love to hear your perspective too from a younger mind. It's really good to hear, but it's an extreme, and I have seen from the counseling perspective and from being in therapy with students that it creates such extreme anxiety as I've never seen before.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't use my phone very much anymore. I used to be attached to it, especially in high school, but now that I've gotten into college, I've realized that it's like a barrier kind of, but it's awful. I don't know how people do it because it's so stressful to try and keep up with that much stuff.
Right.
Plus you have your Facebook app notifying you and your Twitter app notifying you, and it's just too much going on all at once.
So you've made a conscious decision to kind of put yours.
Yes, I put mine away unless I absolutely have nothing else to do and I'm just sitting there scrolling through it. But I've deleted some of my social media even. It's too stressful.
And I want to say, I mean, there are positive things about it, but at the same time, it does. When my grandkids, when we go out to eat, and they're on their phones doing whatever it is they're doing, and you're trying to have a face-to-face conversation. And I've even seen couples go out to eat, and one's on their iPad or iPhone, and the other one's on theirs, and they're not talking to each other.
Right.
And when I go to eat with somebody, that's my social time. I grew up with eating, and in fact, we ate as a family. It was social time to talk. And I think that's another issue with maybe some of our young people too. I don't want to say mental illness or mental health issues, but more of the depression, the stress, the, even ambiguity with their feelings, because they're not able to sit down and have these kind of conversations because Daddy comes home from work and it's this time. The kids come home from their sports activities or after school activities, it's this time. So you have this food on the table, but everybody comes in, picks it up, and goes their own way. And homework. So, I mean, I think that we've lost a lot of that physical, one-on-one even connection, which to me, maybe not, I don't ever want to say a causation, but I think there's a correlation with some of this antisocial behavior even.
Right. And it's interesting you say that because whenever I work with someone who's dealing with anxiety or depression, I always check in with 4 things. Connecting. How's your connecting? Have you had a physical connection with a human being within the past day or 2, just to help with that connection? Are you eating and are you sleeping? And are you exercising or getting out in the sun? So back to connecting. Okay, are you physically connecting with someone? Is there a connection? We're all made for connection, and our mental health develops on that. Eating or getting out in the sun. Sometimes when a person is so consumed in something, whatever that is, whether it's a social media piece, whether it's consumed with a video game, they don't get out in the sun. Their vitamin D depletes. They haven't had what they need for their brain to develop and do well to keep the depression at bay. Eating, sometimes being so consumed in whatever it is, they'll forget to eat. So sometimes with our students, I check in. Hey, did you have breakfast today? No, ma'am. Okay, well, when was the last time you had a meal? I think I had some ramen noodles, maybe yesterday. I'm not sure, but checking in on their eating to make sure that they're doing well there. And those are some things that we check in with. And when someone's so consumed with something in particular, and we're talking about social media now, or maybe gaming or something, we want to make sure that they're aware of things that they can help them mentally, keep their mental health well.
Yeah, and I know you're familiar, you and I've talked about, and I think you use some of that model too, the sources of strength.
Right.
That looking kind of at our life in this holistic, because we're both very holistic people, the mind, the body, the spirit, the friendships, the connections, the family connections, the access to health care, access to, finances even. We know that a lot of students struggle with that, no matter how old they are. As young as you are, Joe's older, older than I am. There's a lot of financial struggles. You're trying to go to school. You got to buy textbooks. Again, not mental illness, but mental health. And I think there is something, when we come back, we've got a couple of seconds before we have to take a break, but when we come back to talk about, how these things, what we can do to improve those, because we talked about, okay, this is what's wrong, now how do we work with it and fix it? So, or not necessarily fix it, but make it better. All right, get your coffee, we'll be right back.
average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.
Welcome back to GHC Coffee Break. We kind of left with this idea of left social media, started talking about sources of strength. Goodness, I can't talk. Sources of strength, but also we left with looking at the differences between when we're talking mental illness versus mental health. There are, as we know, mental illnesses that come in at various ages and that are important to be aware of, but at the same time, I think we want to make sure we're talking about mental health. And the differences. Just because you have mental health issues doesn't mean you have a mental illness. Does that make sense?
That's correct, yes.
So Angie, would you kind of help us understand the differences?
Right, well, just like someone has physical health. I speak a lot with our athletic department and just sharing, we have our physical health. And in your physical health, you know exactly what you do to make it better. You practice your hoops, you practice running to build your endurance. There's some things you can do to develop your physical health. Same with your mental health as well. There's things you can do to develop your endurance, to develop that resilience, to develop that ability to bounce back after a difficult piece that steps into your life or your life situation. Keeping an eye on your physical health and your physical abilities, same with your mental health and mental abilities.
And I think that's a really good way of looking at it. I don't know what it is about our society. We seem to really understand people who may get physically sick.
Right.
But when we talk about our mentally getting sick or our mental health decreasing, not necessarily in the illness, but mental health decreasing, I think we all at one time or the other have experienced anxiety or depression or stress.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, let's be honest, come on. We've all experienced it, but we're almost ashamed, and it's in some cases so invisible that people don't understand it.
Right. Yeah, there's that stigma there, no doubt about it, about saying, okay, I'm not well in this area, I can't see it, I can't point to it, it's not a scab or something that I can go to the doctor and say, fix it and it'll all be better. But this is something that's internal. And so at points people there's a stigma against saying, you know, I am not doing well, whatever that well may be, mentally well.
One of my favorite things, and I used to have a cup that said asking for help is a sign of strength.
Oh yeah.
And you know, I used to I'm learning to ask for help more because of some health issues I've had. But I used to move the furniture. And I didn't ask for any help. And learning, and I'm sure that's where some of my injuries and my health issues have come today. So learning to ask for help is actually, and we emphasize this in the Human Services Program, that asking for help is a good thing because we all need that help. It's not a weakness. It's actually saying, hey, I understand what I can't do, and that's okay because there's so much more I can do. So let me ask you to help me do this. So you found that a little bit more helpful?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big component of, for example, our military personnel. For the mental health issues, it's the sign of a warrior.
Right.
Yeah, the strength of a warrior is asking for help, reaching out for help.
Because we can't do, and I want to go back to now our sources of strength we talked about. I know you and I have both had some training in it. I don't know that I've emphasized it yet, and that's something I'm going to pull in this semester with the program. But the idea of the pie. I wish I would have thought to bring my pie with me. But just imagine a pie and all these pieces. The access to mental health, healthy activities. Help me if I'm missing something. Friendships. Mentors. You know, a lot of, I know I had never really thought about having a mentor and what that meant until I was a young adult. Well, actually probably an older adult, if I want to be really honest, because I was a late bloomer. But having someone that would be not only the cheerleader, but to help them guide and be there on the journey.
Right.
Family, you know, and we know that there's some things. You have the family that you have. I mean, you were born with it. So what can we do if some of those pieces of the pie are not available to people? Peers,
Right.
healthy friendships. There are friendships that are healthy and some that are very unhealthy. Yet we tend to stick sometimes with those unhealthy friendships more than the healthy friendships.
Right. That wheel is so helpful, and I have a copy of that on my table in my counseling room, so that when a student gets stuck trying to find what are your strengths, what kind of strengths do you have around you to help you walk through whatever you're in right now, we'll pull out the wheel. Okay, how about family? Medical, have you checked in with your doctor lately? How's your things going on within your body? And that might play along, being a holistic therapist, it plays along with your mental health as well, your physical health.
Absolutely.
Do you have spiritual mentors? Do you have a pastor or anyone in your life that can help in the area of spiritual growth? Friendships, mentorships, just having that wheel to be able to look at, and when you're in the middle of something dark, it's hard to see the possibilities around you for help. So pulling that out is really helpful for people to check in with.
Oh, absolutely. I'm very strong. Well, and you even go back to Emil Durkheim, a sociologist that his study was on suicide and suicidology. And that was one of the things that he found, is that the more support and strengths that you had externally, the less likely, it didn't mean you wouldn't, but the less likely you were to attempt or to complete suicide. On the other hand, people that had those lesser supports and didn't have it, they were more likely to get into a place where taking their life was the only answer.
Right.
And you and I both have been in suicide prevention and intervention and postvention training. It's something, I know that there's certain months, we always, I think September was Suicide Awareness Month, but to me, anytime we talk about awareness months, that's great. But the reality is we need to be aware of these things 12 months.
We're out of the year.
Yeah, not just a month that we pick out and say, oh, let's concentrate on breast cancer. Well, you get breast cancer in November, December, January. I mean, so these things, to me, yes, we can have a special attention, but we need to be paying attention to all of it all the time.
Right. Right.
And I think that's where this mental health, whether it's adolescents or adults, that we have to be aware of. Students, teachers,
right,
other counselors,
right,
that they can, because we think we have an advantage because of our skill sets, that we're not vulnerable, but we are.
Right, absolutely. And you mentioned teachers and leaders, those are in authority. It's always important to take care of yourself before you take care of all those that are around you, so that you can be able to pour out and able to help others that might be in need. Be a part of that wheel, be the strength for someone else as well. So checking in on yourself. Are you sleeping? Are you eating on a regular basis? Are you exercising or getting out in the sun? Have you connected with someone or a pet? Hug a pet. Let those endorphins just go, so that you can take care of yourself and be able to take care of those around you.
We did laughter yoga in my class the other day. And that's another thing, people need to be very aware of laughter yoga, because it boosts the immune system to laugh. I mean, there's been research that has proven that. There's been research that positive touch, like you said, helps the endorphins. I think that the more we are able to acknowledge that here's our strengths, but what do I need to work on? And like you said, when you're in that dark place, the wheel does help. And I'm going to be bringing that more into, Megan, in our classes, because, and for those of you out there listening, think about those things. And I'm very big on this wellness checks for ourselves. I'm going to put Megan on the spot. Do you remember what analogy I always use about
self-care?
Yeah.
I probably can. Hold on.
Yeah, I'll give her a second, but if you think about it, if not, I'll go ahead and cheat and give it to you, because I think, Angie, what you said, do you remember the story on the airplane?
Oh, yeah, the masks.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't. you have to put your mask on you before you can put your mask on anyone else.
Right. So it's important that if we're in a helping situation, like you said, these leaderships, working with these adolescents, working with the youth, working with other people, corporate leaders.
Right.
I mean, don't just, let's put it all out there for everybody. We are all gatekeepers, or we should be. The janitor, everybody. But if we're not taking care of ourselves, if we hadn't put that mask on, we can't turn around and help someone else.
Right.
So that self-care is just as integral into the mental health part, regardless of how old we are and what positions we're in.
Absolutely. That's a great point. I love that analogy. On the airplane, that's the first thing they say is if the
masks come down, we lose oxygen.
If the cabin loses oxygen, these masks pop down. Put yours on first before you assist those next to you. And so that is a good thing to remember. Take care of yourself. It's not a selfish thing at all. A lot of people might think, oh, I'm not going to take care of myself. I'm going to make sure everybody else is okay. But if you go down, the whole ship's going down. I'll tell that to the moms. If you go down, it's all over.
Exactly.
But take care of yourself. Find moments to do something that would help bring joy to you for the moment. Is it prayer time? Is it meditation? Is it listening to music that's calming to you? Is it locking yourself in the bathroom for just a minute to have a moment to just to be alone and catch your breath before you're getting out for the next thing? For instructors, for teachers, who are hearing just all kinds of stories from their students that are a little overwhelming.
Yeah, they can be,
They can be very overwhelming. So just take a minute in the evenings, turn off your phone, unplug. Just turn all the noise off and just take a minute to be still and just regroup. Do what helps you find joy. Is it playing a game? Is it cuddling your little one? Is it going for a ride on your motorcycle?
Right.
What is it that brings you great joy? Do it, and do it often. To regroup yourself.
And that's an assignment I usually give my students throughout the different semesters. I'll say, okay, this week your assignment is 5 minutes. Because I don't have time to do 5 minutes. So I'm telling everybody 5 minutes. Go lock yourself in the bathroom. Get in the tub. Turn out the lights. Put a candle on. If you like music or you want silence, sometimes I just want silence.
Right.
But do something that is healthy for yourself. Mental health is not just about mental illness. Mental health is the mind, the body, the spirit. And I really encourage everyone to think about taking care of themselves just for a moment. It's worth it. Unfortunately, we're about out of time. Get your coffee and we'll be right back.
Looking for these? You drive Buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
All right, we're closing in GHC coffee break, but as we're going to take us out, I want you to think of things we can tell people real quick they can do to make themselves more healthy.
Oh, go for a walk.
Read a book.
Ride your motorcycle.
Turn off your computer during lunch hour.
Turn off your phones.
I don't know.
Go for a motorcycle ride or ride.
You cheated. I already said that. Ride in your car. But regardless, take a bath, a long bath.
10-second dance party.
Oh, yeah. Laughter yoga. Y'all laugh with it. It's great. It's great. It's a great immune booster. All right, guys. Until next time on GHC Coffee Break, have a good day.